Hey everyone, welcome to the sky this month for April into May of 2026. And this is April into May of 2026. I got the right month this time. My apologies last month, don't know what happened there, but as you can see at the bottom, 2026-0410, that is tonight, the meeting night at 10 o'clock. And I will cover briefly from tonight until the next meeting on May the 8th. And I know I said in my EH article that I was going to change up the format a little bit, and I will do that next month, but seeing as it's our auction night tonight and our speaker's a bit shorter than usual, I'm just going to go ahead and use the same format I've been using for the last couple years, but I'll keep it short, under 15 minutes or so we can get you guys out of here on time. And it's been a busy month for astronomers, it's been a busy month for astronomy in general. Of course, the main focus of the last month has been the moon, with the Artemis 2 mission. Of course, mankind finally returned to the moon after 54 years for the first time since Apollo 17 in 1972. Space Launch System took the Orion spacecraft up into the vicinity of the moon, carrying three NASA astronauts and then Canada's own Jeremy Hansen from London, Ontario, Canadian Space Agency. And it's been so cool to watch that. It's been so cool to follow along with it. The launch was incredible. The photos have been absolutely unbelievable. And it's always good for groups like ours when there's a big name event like this, a big ticket item for the public to get interested in, because it always bumps up people's interest in science and astronomy, education related topics in general. People see in the news and they see on social media, they hear about the moon, they see all these fantastic photos of the lunar craters, they hear about Earthshine and moonshine and Earthrise and Earthset, and see the lunar eclipse photos that were taken, and they start getting interested in that, going, wow, I want to see something like that. Of course, unfortunately, from Earth, we can't see a lot of those things, but every time something like this happens, there's always people coming asking, saying, well, man, I want to see the moon. I want to see these craters. And a lot of the times they don't realize that they can do that. They can go out there and get a telescope, they can get a pair of binoculars, and they can see those lunar craters and those shadows on the Terminator region and the lunar highlands and the lunar seas for themselves. And then it always dominoes into, wow, I can see the moon, I can see Jupiter too. What do you mean? I can see the rings of Saturn, I can see the Galilean moons. And then what do you mean I can see galaxies and nebula and star clusters and things that are thousands and millions of light years away? And so here's hoping that this mission, which is returning tonight, I believe at 5 o'clock, so after I'm recording this, but before the meeting, so here's hoping it all goes well. Here's hoping that this mission and the upcoming lunar landing missions in a few years are going to bump up interest in astronomy education in general, and we can see that with members of the public coming to groups like us looking for information on what's going on and what to see and what they can do. And so let's get into the sky here very quickly for tonight. Of course, there we go, looking in the west. This is for the 10th. 10 o'clock, just as you're leaving the meeting tonight, we have Orion, Taurus, Perseus, Canis Major are winter constellations right down here along the western horizon, with Monoceros and Gemini and Auriga following behind them. This month they will begin to set earlier and earlier and disappear until the summertime in the morning sky. So there is your winter constellations finally leaving their place after a long winter. Looking right above us towards zenith, you can see Leo Minor there. There's Lynx, Ursa Major, Leo, Canis Venaticis, Coma Berenice. Cancer right up here. A lot of our spring constellations well placed high above us at the zenith, with many, many galaxies in this area and really good patch of sky. Of course, the Big Dipper and the many galaxies down in here under the handle, and Leo over here, and the star clusters over in Cancer and Gemini as well. Great viewing opportunity for those objects there. Moving down over into the east, we have our later spring constellations. We have Virgo, Bootes, Coma Berenice there, Corona Borealis, and Hercules. The keystone is fully above the horizon. Virgo is fully risen by this point, and they'll get higher and higher and higher with all of the galaxies in this patch of the sky, which I'll come back to in just a little bit. And then towards the south, we have Hydra. I believe I talked about Hydra last month, with Corvus and Crater and some of those lesser known constellations, Pyxis and Antilla and Sextans over here. Plenty of things to see in this area if you got a big scope and a bit more patience. Lots in this area that often quite gets overlooked. And then over into the north, as I said, Ursa Major is swung all the way around the pole. It's up towards the zenith, and down by the horizon, Cassiopeia and Cepheus, Draco, And then your summer constellations coming up on this side in the east-northeast with Vega right over there. And so, of course, the moon is the big focus for April. And in the EH article, I have a few lunar events of note. I'm not going to run through them all, but I will get to the big one. Of course, we have the moon a few degrees away from Venus in the evening on the 19th. We have the moon a few degrees away from Spica on the 29th. On the 22nd, a few degrees away from Jupiter in Gemini. And the big one for this month, though, is going to be on the 25th at... that is a Saturday night. So Saturday the 25th, and you can see the moon right over here up in Leo. Excuse me. Now my EH article, I put a typo in there that I didn't realize until later. It's already published, unfortunately, but there is a lunar occultation of Regulus, the brightest star in Leo. And in my EH article, I put beginning at 7:44 and reappearing at 8:02 p.m. It's actually 8:44 and 9:02 p.m. So let's go back here a little bit and I'll run through it. Pretty easy to find the moon, look up in the sky and see it. Let's go 10:35 or 8:35 here on the 25th. This is also the night of our public event at Bayfront Park for International Astronomy Day. Hope you can come out for that. But as you can see, there is Regulus and Regulus and the moon right here, 8:35, and the occultation begins right around 8:44, and you can see it's a grazing occultation right along the terminator region, and the moon briefly passes in front of Regulus for about 20 minutes. It just disappears right there, and then comes back out at 9:02. So that is 8:44 to 9:02. Disregard the typo in the EH article, but that's a fantastic one. We saw one a couple months ago. Always really beautiful in binoculars, in a scope for astrophotography. You can even see with the naked eye, but you train any piece of equipment onto it and you're going to get a beautiful view like this. Here's hoping it's clear, and here's hoping we can show this to members of the public. That's all for the moon this month, and there's not much in early May of note, so we'll get right into the planets. And so for our planets this month, it is a tougher month for them. We'll get to, we'll keep it on the 25th, Saturday. But we'll come back into the very early morning here around 5 a.m. And we'll get over to the east. So right over here in the east. Actually, we'll bring it back a few days to the 20th. Start off with Mercury. As you can see right there, very close to the horizon. Very close, even a few days earlier actually. We'll come back here. There you go, you can see Mercury and the moon on the morning of the 15th. Also joined by Mars down here, and Saturn is somewhere around there as well. It's a tough one. Mercury, Mars, Saturn, and Neptune are all going to be in this stretch of the sky right here on the eastern horizon for a few days, middle of the month from about now until the 25th. It's really slim pickings viewing for them here. It's going to be tough. You're going to need a true eastern horizon right until the beginning of May. They're all going to be down there. The moon joins them a couple times, but as you can see right here on the 11th, they do not get more than a couple degrees, if even, above the sky or above the horizon before the sun begins to rise. So there you have it. What is the altitude on this one right now? The altitude is 1.1 degree above the horizon. So there you have it at 6 a.m. on the 20th. Mercury, Saturn, Mars, and again, Neptune is somewhere in there, but don't even bother trying to see Neptune. All three of those planets will be naked eye. If you do have that eastern horizon and you do have a miraculously clear, steady sky, try it out again from about the 10th tonight, so tomorrow morning until about the 25th. They're all going to be moving back and forth around each other here. Unfortunately, Mercury moves back towards the sun after about the 21st or so. Its greatest elongation was on the 7th, so after that it's going to be too close to the sun for the rest of the month. Mars will actually be rising higher and higher and higher as the month progresses, so we'll get Mars right here. That's a Starlink satellite. There is Mars. So as the month goes on, we'll be getting higher and higher and higher. Same with Saturn over there. Unfortunately, the sun also rises earlier and earlier, so it's kind of catch-22 situation here. We'll bring it back. But into May, you'll get more opportunity both for Saturn and Mars in the early morning. But as you can see, still caught in that twilight glow. So try your hand out on that, but that is those three planets right there, all morning objects in the eastern horizon for the rest of the month. Venus, of course, is going to be putting on a show for us in the west in the evening. So let's go again to middle of the month, 20th or so. And there you can see Venus right there. Western sky after sunset, we have it 8:40 right now. And as the month goes on into May, Venus gets higher and higher and higher and lingers for longer and longer and longer until by our next meeting night on the 8th, Venus is out for a couple hours after sunset, high in the west, bright in the west. So an entire month of viewing for Venus right over there. Skip back now to tonight. We'll go to Jupiter because there is still opportunity for Jupiter as well. As you can see, high in Gemini right there. As the month goes on, does set earlier and earlier and earlier, but still out until around 1, 2 in the morning. Plenty of time to see the biggest planet and its moons and its bands, and watch, of course, for those transits of the Galilean moons and their shadows across the face of the planet. And Uranus is up in Taurus as well until the end of the month, but that is a tight one. Setting earlier and earlier if you want to see Uranus as well. Now, Comet MAPS unfortunately burned up during its closest approach. There was potential for it to be a naked eye comet if it survived its encounter with the sun. I believe that was on the 6th and the 7th. It did not, so it burned up. I put in the article too, though, to look forward for Comet Pan-STARRS. Right there, I have it right there. Comet Pan-STARRS, which is another sun-grazing comet. Comet Pan-STARRS will again potentially become a very bright comet in the morning sky. Its closest approach to the sun is on the 20th, but if we back it up a few days here, you will see it moving through Pegasus on the eastern horizon from now until that close approach. So you can watch it there. We have 5:40 in the morning, and you can follow it through Pegasus down towards the sun as it hits that closest approach as well. It is a sun-grazing comet. And there is the potential, of course, as always with these sun grazers, for it to become naked eye. They're projecting it might get magnitude 3 or 4. Here's hoping. It's totally unpredictable. No idea. You'll have to wait and see. If it does survive its close approach, then could be quite a sight to see. So keep an eye out and track that in the early morning hours from about the 17th until the 23rd. See what it does. Potential for a really good sight. And now we'll get very quickly here into the deep sky, and we'll move it back towards a more reasonable hour. Let's call it 11 o'clock around there in the evening, 10:40. And it is Galaxy Month, of course. I put that in the EH article too. Virgo, Como Berenices up here, Leo, Canis Venatici, Leo Minor, and Ursa Major in this stretch of the sky right down here. It's like a boomerang or horseshoe shape almost. There is an incredible amount of galaxies, and on Stellarium, galaxies are the red objects here, because we have the Virgo galaxy supercluster, and then we have the Como Berenices cluster up over here, and it is literally hundreds, if not thousands of galaxies. I don't even have the magnitude limit set very low right now. But this is the month for galaxy viewing because this is the Virgo supercluster, which is just a massive, massive cluster, mainly of very old galaxies, ellipticals, although you do have some barred spiral galaxies coming in here. But there are so many different Messier objects in here. There are so many different NGC objects that are all brighter than magnitude 10, 11. You can spend hours just coming down from Leo over here through across Virgo and seeing again dozens and dozons, if not hundreds and hundreds, even in a 6 or 8 inch scope. Galaxy after galaxy after galaxy, and it actually gets confusing at times to figure out which one is which, because there's so many. You look at them, is this M100 or is this M90 or is this M91 or is this M87? Which one am I looking at here? And all across this region of the sky, you can see there are some over here as well. Very nice ones, the Whirlpool Galaxy and Ursa Major, Croxi Galaxy or M94 over in Canis Venatici here. Many, many bright Messier galaxies for our beginners mainly, and they are all fantastic ones to see. They're really interesting to try and star hop to, because a lot of these, I know people like using their go-to and they like using their C stars and their push twos, but I'm still old school when it comes to star hopping, and so always presents a challenge trying to find some of these galaxies sitting out in the middle of nowhere with no bright stars all around them. But once you do, you can follow anywhere in this area of the sky and you're sure to pick out quite a few faint fuzzies, because look at these. It's just endless and endless and endless, and that is the whole month of April right here. I put a list in the EH article with a bunch of beginner galaxies, a bunch of more intermediate and advanced galaxies, and a nice challenge object for all of you. But there's not really all that much that needs to be said. This is the focus of the month right now. Right in this area of the sky, Leo, Virgo, Coma Berenices up here. Focus your scope in here, get a nice dark night, get some clear skies, and even if you're a raw beginner, just point it right here between Denebola and Vendemitrix right down there, and almost instantly, I guarantee, if it's a big enough scope, 5, 6, 7 incher, 5, 6, or 8 incher, you're going to see Markarian's chain. You're going to see these galaxies here, and it is so cool to see, filling up the field of view, dozens and dozens of different galaxies. Great for picking off different lists that you're going through, the Messier list or the NGC list, and just fun in general to just wander around and see if you can bump up the magnification and see any of these galactic arms, any of these spiral arms, any of the structures in all of these galaxies over here, and trickled in a few different globular clusters here and there, some very nice ones in this area as well. Plenty to see and plenty to do this month in the spring sky, and that is your sky this month for April into May. And I will see you all hopefully on the 25th at Bayfront Park, and if not, back here again on May 8th. Clear skies and happy observing.